Yeah, I just finished reading Jason Aaron's Thor Omnibus Volume 1, and I got some thoughts. This book is $125 cover price on it. It's 1,216 pages, so a lot of stuff in here. As far as I can tell right now, it seems to be completely out of print at all of the big discounters like in-stock trades, etc. Of course, Amazon still has it, but you're going to pay real close to cover price, like 11% instead of 40 or 50. So, and of course, you don't know how it's going to get to you, if it'll be one piece or 4 or 5, you know. But I can't imagine Marvel not going back to print on this. I mean, this was a huge seller, so it just seems like they would do that. You know, they would take advantage of that. So it'll probably come back in print. My copy has great binding, really strong binding on it. Didn't have any issues there. But boy, did I have a lot of issues. You know, as far as I can tell, all of the run of this book, the run of this omnibus, were all printed in that notorious printer in Turkey. And it's not good. I mean, I never thought I would come to a point, or that we would all, you know, America would come to a point where we were hoping something came from China instead of some other country. But that's certainly what we got here, because the Chinese printer the omnibuses have been traditionally printed at do much better work than this Turkish printer. It's bad. My copy, it had big black ink blots, like it dripped in there, and then they didn't clean it off and they closed the book, so those ink glops just acted as a adhesive, and I had about 16 pages, about 75% through the book, which luckily I did find out when I was stretching the binding when I opened up, which is something you guys need to be doing if you're not doing that, because you can find out if there's things wrong with your book before you try to read it. You know, so if you leave that shrink wrapped up like my daughter does sometimes for years, then you go to pull it off and read it, and you find out you have pages stuck together, literally. So I was able to separate the pages and pick off the dried black ink glops. And of course, that created a hole that ran through 16 of those pages. I mean, a hole about yay big. So I was actually still able to read the book with that hole present. Luckily, it did not go through any text. And I even had to take a razor knife and sort of make it a little bit larger so that it wasn't flayed out to where the pages would still lie flat. You know, it's a real bummer. And I found this out about 4 days after I got the book. Contacted In-Stock Trades, and of course they offered for me to just send it straight back for a full refund, with the caveat though that they had no more copies. So, and yeah, not good. They also offered me just 15% off and keep the book. So that's what I did. I took the 15, I got like $20 back, and I kept the book, and I read this book. Now, other than the 16 pages that have a hole through them, there was little bits of tiny black specks throughout the book. Not every single page, but a lot of them. And those I was just able to just take my fingernail and just scratch it right off without creating a hole. So yeah, Marvel needs to address this. They really do. I mean, I understand printing is a mess right now with the way the world is. But if that means we just have to wait longer for a quality printer to do these books, then I say let's wait. Let's stop flushing money down the toilet like this. You know, buying these subpar quality books that, you know, they're getting a premium price for. It should be a premium product. And I think we need to demand better, quite frankly. And I would hope that some of the bigger YouTubers than me that have a real voice to Marvel, you know which one I'm talking about. This person needs to use his contacts and let them know that this has become an epidemic of poor quality and just terrible products, terrible binding in some cases. My binding's good. Very, very thin pages that you can see through sometimes. I can put up with that more than I can put up a whole through 16 pages, obviously. But yeah, we need to demand better. But that's not what this video is about. And that the condition of the binding is not going to affect my review of the book, because I'm more reviewing the contents than I am, the sad example of printing that I got. Jason Aaron, celebrated fan favorite writer. Don't need to say a lot about him, but he wrote nearly the entire book, save 2 small short stories that have other writers. The primary artists on this book are Esed Ribic and Russell Doderman, and they are fantastic. Now, if you're curious about how I'm pronouncing Esed Ribic, well, I did some research because I like to do that. I like to be accurate, if nothing else. I got some quirky opinions, but I try to be accurate with the fact portion of these videos. And so I found an interview where Esed Ribic says his own name. That's how he says it. Had to watch it a bunch of times to get that right, but it's Esed Ribic. Anyway, the differing art styles in this book are a problem in several spots, where we go from really high-tier, beautifully rendered art to not so much. In some cases, a real dirty mess. I'll try to show some examples, and I don't like to call artists out and attack them. I try to be more positive than that. But when it takes me out of the story so bad, it's hard. So this collects the Thor, God of Thunder 1 through 25, and this is the 2014 series. And then Thor 1 through 8, which was the next year, 2014, annual 2015, and the Thor plural, Thors, mini 1 through 4 that happened in between there. And then the Mighty Thor 1 through 12, which was the 2015 series. Now, I don't know if anyone agrees with me out there, but I absolutely hate all of this renumbering nonsense. I mean, I've hated it since day one, and I still hate it. And now it's like they're not even pretending to try to keep a title going. I mean, we got 2 main Thor titles here, and they're just renamed and renumbered. I mean, personally, I just wish they would go back to the original numbering and leave it and just continue forward. But if they're not going to do that, at least keep the same numbering for, let's say a decade. Let's go 10 years and just number. Even if you want to start with a 1 and go on, it's just nonsense. But, that's the industry as it is now. I'm not, bothers me, but maybe it doesn't bother anyone else. I don't know. The first part of this Omni, storyline-wise, is the Gore, the God Butcher. And, man, it is so good. It's just an epic that's just beautifully illustrated by Esed Ribic. And, man, it's very impressive. Jason Aaron's world building is phenomenal. He introduces a lot of elements of the Marvel Universe that, weren't covered before, probably because he thought of them. Like that that library of the gods, which I just love that whole concept. That librarian with the wings, man, it's really something else. It's very impressive, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. The second part deals with Malekith, the dark elf that I believe Walt Simonson probably created in his run. Great villain, and that's what the second part of this book mainly deals with, is Malekith and the League of Realms that has to be formed. And man, that's some really good stuff too. Seeing all the different kinds of elves and their world and the dwarf realm, and it's good stuff. So if you're at all in for Marvel's version of Norse mythology, which is pretty fast and loose with the original material, but it works within the Marvel universe, you're going to love this. I think old-time Thor fans and new Thor fans alike, I think, will really enjoy most of this book, if not all of it. So it's at this point I feel like I maybe need to give a little bit of a spoiler warning. I mean, I can't imagine how, with the Love and Thunder film about to be released and the trailers that's come out for that and all the stills and all of the articles online, it's hard for me to imagine that someone doesn't know female Thor's secret identity at this point. But just in case you don't, probably don't want to watch any further than this point. But come on, everyone knows at this point, and spoiler warning over. So the really the largest section of the book, and the third section, I guess you might say, is dealing with female Thor. I mean, I had a lot of problems with this concept when Kristen had mentioned it to me, and I'd read stuff about it online. And I mean, I'm all for female empowerment. I really, truly am, you know. But Thor, for one thing, Thor, I'm pretty sure is a Norse masculine name, you know. I mean, I think there are female gender equivalents to the Thor name, but they're not Thor. I think it might be like Thoriel or Thordis, and I mean, there's several that I've read about. So they could have went there, but even beyond that, I don't understand why we need any of that at all. Just call her Jane. Jane, Goddess of Thunder. What is wrong with that? And to me, and this is just a male talking here, so maybe I don't get to talk about it, but I'm going to anyway. If it seems to me like it would be more empowering for an individual and for a female to keep her own name rather than have a male's name thrust upon her. I mean, Jane, Goddess of Thunder. I still think that's how it should have been done. But having said all that, the story is really good. It's really good, and it convinced me, and it made me a fan of this female goddess of Thunder. It really did, and the character design is awesome. I like the armor. I like the look a lot. I like nearly everything about it, except for the whole name thing. Still bothers me a little bit, you know. But you know what? It didn't bother me enough from really enjoying this book and this story. I just read right through it. Didn't take me that long either, for me. And I'm not a very fast reader, but yeah, there's a lot of new stuff that he introduced here. It's really inventive and really fun, and I enjoyed it. One example is Mjolnir, the hammer, has new powers now. And, I guess if you just told me that without me reading it, I'd think, oh, no, come on. We know what Mjolnir's powers are. We don't need a new power set. But Jason Aaron gave us one, and man, it's fun. It really is. I'm not going to give it all away in this review, but one highlight for me was using the hammer basically as a flashlight. I mean, that is wild. And why was this not ever thought of before? I mean, it's magical. Why could it not glow and light your way? And it does multiple times, and it's really well. It's a small thing, but it's so cool. I like it a lot. And we also got details about the hammer's origin we get in this volume that we never had before. And it makes a lot of sense. I like where he's going with this. Hopefully there'll be more answers in volume 2, because I haven't read this material before. This is the first time I've read it. I know a lot of you probably had it in other forms. I like almost everything about this Omni. I mean, other than I got a bad sample, of course. But, there was some jarring art changes, though. It really took me right out of it. I mean, on Mighty issue 6, issue 6, toward the end of the volume, they tell a tale of the past. And I like how that they did have a primary artist doing the regular stuff that's in the present. Then they switched to the other artists for the past. I like that concept. I've seen it done very well before, and it was done really well earlier in the book when they used, to me, better artists like Butch Guice and Nick Klein was used earlier. But here, the guy they chose to do this, I just thought it was just awful. I thought it was so bad, despite the excellent writing. I had to slog through this. I mean, I didn't think I was going to make it. 4 or 5 pages into this, it looks like it's done with a big fat black crayon. All the lines are really thick and dark, and it's just, I thought it was horrible. I mean, just bad. Sort of childish looking. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that was what they were going for, to tell this story that she was reading in this book, I believe is how it was. But man, it was bad. It was bad for me. I just hated it so much. I barely got through it. I guess I could show an example here. I hate to call out artists and slag them because, most artists have a fan somewhere that likes this style. But man, I sure did not. And I didn't think I was going to get through this book. But then I thought, well, I've read 90% of it. I can't give up now because of this terrible artwork. But so I made it through. Now, I can pick some nits. And I'm going to pick a few nits here of some things I didn't care for. They're very minor. But like one thing he does, Jason Aaron has the characters do is use hell as a curse, like to hell with you, and then spell it H-E-L, which they're equating that as a Norse mythology's hell. I mean, I realize it's a comic book and it's the Marvel Universe. It's not a strict reading of the Norse myths, but, it just really grates on me because Helheim, more appropriately in Norse mythology, is not the Christian hell where we have, constant torture and punishment for sins and whatnot. That's not what it is. So that's why it's. I mean, I guess as a throwaway line once or twice is fine, but it's used a lot through this entire run. And knowing what I know of Norse mythology, it's not really appropriate. You can't try to put Christian values to pagan religions, which is kind of what they're doing here, by using hell in that way. So, it's a small nit. I mean, they do the same thing with Valhalla. Valhalla is not the Viking heaven. Vikings don't actually have a heaven. In the Norse mythology, their thing was all about living your human life to the fullest. That was their whole thing from my understanding of it. They looked forward to going to Valhalla so they could, drink and party with their gods and their ancestors who were warriors also. If they were worthy, they went to Valhalla. But Helheim was not necessarily punishment and torture. There were sections of it that certainly had monsters and all that sort of thing, but not all it was. It was the land of the dead. It wasn't the Christian hell. But anyway, a few more nitpicks, I guess. One thing about that. If you want to learn more about that, I will link below a video from Ocean Keltoi. Now, he's a self-proclaimed pagan. He actually worships the Norse gods today. But aside from that oddity, he does seem to be a pretty learned scholar on the Viking sagas and Norse mythology. He's read a lot of the ancient texts and things, so he knows a lot about it. And I'll link below a video where he talks about Helheim and how it's mischaracterized sometimes with the sort of Christian hell. Another nitpick would be like plate mail. A lot of the stories they're reading in the histories and things and the flashbacks are back in the Dark Ages. And one is like 894 AD, and the Vikings got full plate mail on. And I'm not talking about a Viking god. I'm talking about they're supposed to be just regular mortal Vikings and dudes walking around in full plate that won't exist for another 500 years. Yeah, I know it's not a history book. It's a comic book, but just kind of bugged me a little bit there. Bugged me enough to I have to mention it. But some mild spoilers here, but Jane Foster is dying of cancer in this. Why she is refusing the Asgardian magic that's available to her to just cure her, I still feel like is a total just crazy concept. I mean, why would you not do that? Why would you put yourself through the hell of chemotherapy if you didn't have to? I don't get it. I guess the same reason I don't understand why she needs a secret identity. She's literally living on Asgardia, the city of the gods. She's living there. And then she commutes to get her chemotherapy in Manhattan. Why the hell would you do that? That's hell with two L's, not one. But why would you do that? I mean, I think Jason Aaron's explanation in the storyline is sort of like, well, she wants to continue being a senator to this Congress of Worlds that takes place on Asgardia, where they have representatives from the 10 realms, formerly 9 realms, but now 10. represent their world in various aspects, things that's going to happen across the cosmos, and she gets chosen to represent Midgard, to represent Earth. I still don't understand why that they would need to have a secret identity, why she would need that, and why she couldn't just go ahead and cure herself of this heinous disease. I mean, I don't get it. Maybe there'll be more explanations coming, but I didn't buy that. I did not buy that plot development. I mean, you better believe most sane people would certainly choose the magic, rather than the chemo. One thing I did not like about this book, and it's larger than a nit for sure, because it was 4 issues, that miniseries Thor's, I didn't care for it at all. And about halfway through it, I was kind of ready to give up on it. But I want to, if I'm going to review a book, I want to read the whole thing. And generally, I do read all of my books, cover to cover. So I slogged through it. But basically, that's the one where it's essentially a police procedural played out on one of the Battle World realms, the one that Doom controlled apparently, and it has Thors from multiple universes, including the Ultimate Universe, basically acting as cops, detectives and policemen in this world that's composed of multiple realities that's merged together. I mean, you know all that if you've read Battle World. And the Secret Wars Battle World, I guess is what it was. I don't know. I didn't actually read it, but I have an understanding of it, Maybe I would like this section, this 4-issue mini, better if I had read that last Secret Wars or whatever it was called. Maybe, I don't know, but it just fell flat to me. It was like a very almost paint by the numbers police procedural, but just done with Thors. And I didn't like it. I didn't care for it. It definitely fell flat to me. And yeah, I think that could just be pulled right out of here. I guess it's included because, it happened in that sequence and it's written by Jason Aaron. But yeah, I didn't care for that one too much. That was the only bit of writing I could probably really criticize in the whole book, was that one. That didn't work for me at all. But I mean, when I was going through some of the little rough patches in the book, and I don't mean physically rough, I mean where the art was bad, I was thinking, I can't give this book more than a 7, despite all the great stuff in it. That's horrible, But after I got through those admittedly short passages and got back to the Russell Doderman and the better artists like that, then I perked right up, and I was able to continue on and really enjoy the story, because the story doesn't stop. It's great. But so for me, this is an 8 out of 10. Yeah, it's it's really almost a 9. It's nearly a 9. Probably, if not for the patches of poor art that pulls me right out, and the multiple Thors miniseries. If you took that one out of this book and also removed some of the bad art, I might go as high as a 10 for this thing. But as it is, being honest, this is an 8. It's a solid 8. It's almost a 9, but it's an 8 for me. Yeah. Now, next week, instead of a book review, which is what I normally do on a Monday, we're going to have a little special video where I'm going to talk about the processes and the software and the techniques I use to keep track of my collection, to keep track of my books and to know what I have. And I think it might be of help to some people. I was watching one of the Collectors Network live shows, I think it was, not too long ago, and someone asked about what they used, or if they know, the question was, how many books do you have? Do you know how many books you have? And the entire panel, there was 4 guys on there, including Omar was one of them. They didn't know. They all looked at each other like, nope, I don't know, don't know. And man, I was like, how could you not know how many books you have? That would drive me crazy if I didn't know how many books I have. But anyway, so I thought I would make this video, and it might help some people, and you might find it amusing, if nothing else, of the techniques and the software that I use to keep track of my collection. And it might help you figure out a way to do yours. Mine's not the only way, but I'm going to show you my way. So come on back for that. And if you like my content, please subscribe. YouTube puts everything behind levels of subscriptions, like I talked about before. The community tab, only available if you have 1,000 subs. You know, I don't know if I'll ever get there, but I would like to have that community tab. So please, if you like this content, you want to come back, you don't want to miss anything, go ahead and subscribe and give me a like. It always helps too with the various algorithms that drive YouTube. So come on back for that video.